It's Saturday 11th of May. It's lovely and warm, as you can see, t-shirt weather. I'm back on the London Anglers Association Glemsford No.1 pit. Rumour has it that the majority of the fish, some people suggest all of the tench, the carp and the bream have been eaten by the otters. But this is, apart from being an absolutely beautifully tranquil lake, fantastic surroundings, it's an 11-acre lake. And for the otters, it's not like you've got a swarm of them, a couple at best. They're not going to eat every single fish in here. Fish are going to escape. There's loads of lily pads, there's loads of weed beds, particularly in the summer. There's loads of little islands, little nooks and crannies, places for them to hide. I'm kind of hoping. I came 4 weeks ago and it was a whole lot colder and it was a whole lot more difficult. I managed to catch one tench, small tench, about 4.5 pounds. But I saw enough to get me interested enough to come back. And I like a challenge. I don't mind sitting here. I'm here for 2 nights. My target's one fish, one bite. I've gone with quite a varied, light approach. I put just hemp, some crushed sweet corn, which I love, some micro pellet, they're like 1 mil pellet, and I've only put a couple of handfuls out. I've got a nice clear area close in, a little bit silty, a little bit soft. I've gone with really tiny little feeders, the smallest I can get, and I may switch to leads if I think I'm putting in too much feed as I go. Depends how it comes. I've gone with sweet corn and worm on one, real sweet corn. I've gone with 2 fake maggots on a hair and 2 real maggots on a size 10 hook. And I may scale that down if I need to. I'm looking for bites, I'm looking for indications. I've fed a few maggots as well. And on the other one, I've gone with my trusted pellet with a bit of plastic corn. And yeah, I have fed a handful of krill pellet in with my micro pellet. So I'm kind of hoping something may respond. I'll get back to you. If a fish even thinks about blowing on the surface, rolling, anything like that, I'm going to see it. I've got half the lake to myself. I've seen a lot of small rudd moving on the surface. When I say small, I'm guessing sort of length of your finger, maybe last year's. So presumably there's bigger fish here. I've seen one decent fish move on the surface. Whether it was a pike or not, I really don't think so, because it was only out the corner of my eye. It was more of a roll rather than a crash like when a pike hits the surface. So I rather suspect that may have been a tench. I saw a couple of 3 tench last time I was here, interestingly in a similar position. So yeah, I'm just going to keep my eyes peeled, get the kettle on, have a cup of coffee, sit back and enjoy this oh so beautiful lake. It is, I'll be happy to sit here for one fish for 2 days, because do you know what? I'm on a date with Ms. Mother Nature, and this is her at her best. This place is beautiful. It's got an aura and a feeling about it which you can't explain. You have to get down here. As soon as you walk along the riverbank up and start approaching the lake, it just feels right. That's all I can say on it. Anyway, I'll get back to you if I manage to snare a fish or 2. Cheers, guys. Well, there's fish about. They're not particularly big. I'm sure you can see them fish just to the right-hand side, left-hand side, top in. Some of them are a little bit bigger, maybe 3-4 inches. Majority are a couple of inches. There's the odd one amongst them, which looks a slightly better fish. But there's a lot of them, so they've come from somewhere. And if the otters were to have eaten every fish in here, at what point do they then turn on the rudd? Well, clearly they haven't. There's also an awful lot of pike in here which are eating something. I don't know what the otters' dietary requirements are. I do know that they prefer tench and carp if they can get them. Do they eat the bream? Do they eat the roach and rudd? If they're hungry and they want the fish, I would have thought they'll eat anything. So I'm rather hoping, if there's this number of rudd have survived enough to be able to spawn successfully, which you can see by the number of ripples on the surface. They clearly have. Hopefully a few more tench have survived. Interestingly, I did see some bubbles further down the lake on the surface, which it was either a carp or a bream, a carp or a tench rather. Tiny little bubbles, and by the size of them, I'm rather suspecting it was probably a tench, and it might be slightly out of eye shot, but you can see that signet in the distance, and the weed that's in front of it. It was just this side of the weed, very weedy on the run up to that. So it's not like I can put a rod over there. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't. I fished this swim a few times, and if they're not there when you get there, they're never that far away. There's a long island just to my left, with a channel which runs round beside the river, and it seems to be a patrol route, and they come round the corner of that island and tend to come along this bank. And the carp, the ones I've had and the ones I've seen out of here in the past, and I'm talking 8+ years ago, last time I fished it seriously, tended to hang around that island as you would expect. Not many in here, not particularly big. You know, I'd be over the moon with a 10-pound carp. You know, that's a special fish from a venue like this, and this is about bites for me and about what I see. I love the place and I want to fish it, and if I can catch a couple of fish each time I do, I'll be more than happy. Bit like Hemmingford, hard work, but I like to be tested, and I guess that's the matchman in me. Having fished at a very high level, I like to be challenged, and Hemmingford was a challenge and will continue to be a challenge, and it would seem Glemsford No.1 may be a challenge, but keep going, see what happens. About 6:30, first fish of the evening, little rudd as you can see. The fact is it's a bite, good condition, lovely colours as always they are, very small, come on 2 fake maggots with 2 real maggots on the hook, so hopefully there's bigger fish out there. After 20 odd hours in the other swim, a lot of rudd, I had a couple around 8 ounces, but the majority of them were 3 to 5 ounces, and they all came every time I put on the 2 fake maggots on the hair with the 2 real maggots on the hook, size 10 Drennan hook by the way. I just caught a rudd, and it was like sometimes it was pulling the line out of my hand as it hit the bottom. As far as the pellet's concerned, I had the odd indication. There was a lot of silkweed, in spite of the fact that I'd raked it and someone had raked it previously. And a lot of times I come back and my bait was covered in silkweed. Yeah, the rudd would get into the maggots, but I think they were getting to the maggots before they got to the bottom or buried in the silkweed. I saw tench at distance. I saw 2 roll, and I saw a few blowing, and they've been blowing during the day, and they're definitely tench because the patches of bubbles and they're just moving, but they're all a long way off and more towards this open water, towards this end. So in front of me is a point of an island. I guess it's about 100 yards long, and there's a channel runs around the back adjacent to the river, which is sort of 10-15 yards wide. What's nice is underneath this tree and in front of the island here, the bottom's clear, there's no silkweed, there's cabbage weed, there's lily pads, and obviously you've got the overhanging trees. But as far back as I can remember, 10, 15, even 20 years ago, it was always clear on the bottom, and it was always good for a bite, always good for a fish, particularly out towards the corner. I can remember a long time ago having 20+ tension in an overnight session off that point, and the other 2 rods just sat there motionless. Whether it's a patrol route, whether there's something on the bottom which attracts the fish, I don't know. So I've got 1 rod under the tree out on the corner in front of the lily pads, one in the middle next to some cabbage weed, and one slightly up the channel. All in about 4.5, 5 foot of water. I've gone with 2 balls of ground bait, only small, sort of small tangerine size, bigger than a golf ball, on each one, and it's just basically the krill ground bait, some black breadcrumb, some micro pellet, and some 4 mil pellet, plus my crushed up hemp and crushed up sweet corn. That's gone in too. I'm not going to put as much bait as I did in last time. It seemed to attract the rudd. I didn't realise just how many rudd were still in here. And believe me, there were loads of them. You come down and fish the pole over ground bait, you'd empty it for the rudd. You never know, you might even nick a tench or two, because the tench in here definitely like a maggot. So got my rods out, got my bait in, kettle's on, gonna have a cup of coffee. It's 22 degrees, proper weather, lovely. I'm rather hoping as we get towards the evening that something might start stirring. So I'll get back to you as and when. Cheers. There is some serious shoals of rudd in here. This shoal's not particularly small, they're not big, but I think you can see them, they're all 3, 4, 5 ounces. There's the odd bigger fish amongst them, but this evening from about 5 o'clock onwards, shoals of them absolutely everywhere. Wherever you look in the lake, there's shoals of these rudd. Well, the part that I've looked in. Madness. Yeah, look, there they go again, and back the other way. And I don't know if you heard in the middle of that, I had an indication on my middle rod, which is a pellet with a bit of fake corn. Amazing. Morning all. So just finished the second night in a new swim. It proved the right decision. I managed 2 tench, only small though, both about £4. Interestingly, both of them came on the maggot rig, where I put 2 fake maggots on a hair and 2 real maggots on a hook. There's more fish here than I'm catching. I need to work out what I'm doing wrong. I saw, after I moved yesterday, probably 20 tench plus rolling, not all near where I was fishing, just I can see a large part of the lake, as you can see, and they were everywhere. Not as many as there used to be in the past, but there's still a few in here. What there is a lot of are the rudd. They are everywhere, and although the ones I had up to about 8 ounces, I had 4, I think, around that size. Most of them were 3 or 4, 5 ounces, and irritating bites on the feeder with the fake and real maggots. It's like tap 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 tap, and you just have to kind of time it right to hook them before they take the real maggots off the hook, which they do very well. Beautiful, absolutely, with the mist on the water this morning, lovely. Not seeing a sign of any tench this morning. I had something crash out in front of me, and I didn't actually see the fish, but it was a big fish. I don't think it was a carp. I don't think it was a pike. They tend to hit the surface in a different way. I suspect it was probably a carp. Not seeing any signs of bream at all yesterday when it was really hot, 22. In the past, you normally see them out in the middle, sitting on the surface when it's very warm. Haven't seen a single bream, so it's interesting with the otter situation. I've been reading up. They'll eat anything. So what? And interestingly, they like pike. So what gets me is why have they only targeted the carp, bream and tension here and not eating the pike or the rudd or the roach or anything else that swims? The other thing I read as well is that they're partial to eating coots, and there's a lot of coots on here. So I'm going to give it a couple of weeks. I might have a go at Hemmingford next, but I'll definitely be back because if nothing else, this is a lovely, lovely lake. Well, I know I've said it a number of times, but it is so peaceful. And you know what? Where it's not very popular, you pretty much got the lake to yourself. There was a guy yesterday going around in a kayak, spinner fishing for pike and zander, which I saw one in the margins. So there's definitely zander in here. It was only about 8 ounces, but definitely can't mistake a zander in the water. So on to my next trip. Start packing up shortly. Another cup of coffee before I go. It's about 5:30. Might nick another bite before, but nothing at first light. Both, by the way, both the tents come. One came about 11:30 last night. The other one was about 1:30 in the morning. So, cheers, guys.